Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's telephone town hall. I'm Adam Hardiman. I'll be your moderator again this evening. Thank you for joining us for our 7th town hall that has seen thousands of residents join us so far. Before we begin, if you are on a cell phone and your call gets dropped, you can rejoin us by streaming it at rmwb.ca/townhall. Tonight's town hall will have a slightly different format than our previous calls. I'd like to begin by introducing Jeanette Bancars, the chair of the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee, who will provide an update on the recovery process thus far. Jeanette?
Thank you, Adam. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. The Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee, RMWB staff, and our many partners continue to work together to help our community recover, and I'd like to thank you all for your continued resilience through this challenging time. We've heard many of your concerns, and we understand how the uncertainty of the situation is adding to the difficulty of making the decisions you need to make for yourself and your families. I'd like to take this time to update you on some of the areas that we receive the most questions about. We continue to work on the Green Homes Reentry Plan with the Chief Medical Officer of Health to ensure that the mitigation measures are in place to ensure the safety of residents through the debris removal process and beyond. Your safety remains our #1 priority, and this will continue to be the case going forward as we work towards the mutual goal of helping you return to your home safely. We anticipate that we will be able to provide more information on the status of this plan next week. We continue to work on flood mitigation strategy for Fort McMurray as presented to Council on August 2nd, 2016. The presentation and discussion are available at rmwb.ca/council. Analysis continues on the joint Government of Alberta, Red Cross, and RMWB Housing Needs Assessment Survey to determine what interim housing needs are required. Calls were made directly to a sample of residents whose homes were destroyed or damaged beyond habitation, and results will be analyzed and used to inform decisions to address housing needs. We've heard your concerns about the September 30th closing date of the Abrams Land Temporary RV Park and are taking them into consideration as we work towards identifying temporary accommodation solutions to meet your needs. However, as of this moment, the September 30th date still remains in effect. Significant progress has been made with respect to debris cleanup and demolition. 1,112 demolition permit applications have been received. 1,020 permits have been issued, and 130 post-demolition inspections have been completed across the region. I'd also like to acknowledge that the first rebuilding permits have been issued as the community continues to work together to rebuild. We're launching a series of recovery-related information sessions this week, the first of which is being held on Thursday, August 18th from 4 to 8 p.m. at McDonald Island Park, and the Y&M Home Show on Saturday, August 20th. We want to listen to what you have to say, address your concerns, and answer your questions in person. We'll begin answering your questions shortly, but first I'd like to introduce you to tonight's participants. Maggie Farrington, Vice Chair of the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee, Councillors Sheldon Germain and Alan Vinney. From Municipal Administration and the Recovery Team, Dana Woodworth, Recovery Team Lead, Aaron O'Neill, Recovery Chief of Planning, Jamie Doyle, Director of Planning and Development, Andrea Haley with Economic Development. Also joining us are Melanie Soler from the Red Cross, Alberta Health Services Chris Watkins and Mayank Sengel, Andrew Ross with SPECS, Insurance Bureau of Canada Rob Dupree and Dave Johnson. Remember, to ask a question, press *3 on your phone's keypad and give your question to the operator. If you're joining us online, please type your question in the question field.
Well, thanks very much, Jeanette. And before we move on, I'd like to send things over to Rob Dupree from the Insurance Bureau of Canada to have a brief update from their end. Rob, go right ahead.
Thanks, Adam. We recognize at IBC that not all claims go as smoothly as we would like them to. We continue to be available both in Fort McMurray and by phone and email to provide support, guidance, and assistance when you have questions. We have consumer information officers that can help answer your general insurance questions. They can be reached at 1-844-2-ASK-IBC or via email at fortmacfire, that's FORTMACFIRE @ibc.ca. Steve Johnson, who is joining me on the call tonight, can be reached at the Back to Business Resource Center on the main floor at 9816 Hardin Street, weekdays from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., and can answer any question that you have on both your commercial, business, or personal claims. There are a couple of rumors that we've heard we'd like to address. One rumor is there a 1-year or 2-year time limit to repair or rebuild my house? The answer is under most insurance policies in Alberta, there is a 2-year time limit to get your claim finalized. There may be some companies that have a 1-year clause on a specific portion of the policy, like guaranteed replacement cost. We have reached out to one company in particular, and they've confirmed that they have waived this 1-year clause. If you have this particular clause in your policy, we encourage you to reach out to your adjuster and ask them to confirm in writing that this clause has been waived. The next rumor is, will my insurance policy pay my mortgage payments, property taxes, or condo fees? The answer is, unfortunately, no. The common homeowner's policy covers damage to the building and contents and does not cover your ongoing expenses like mortgage payments, taxes, or monthly condo fees. The other question we've heard commonly is, my insurance company said I have to use their preferred contractor. Is this true? The answer is no, this is not true. You can use a service provider of your choice to repair or rebuild your property. Ask your chosen contractor for a quote and provide this to your adjuster for consideration. I encourage everyone to check out ibc.ca for frequently asked questions, downloadable documents, and Insurance 101 reference material to help guide you through this difficult process. IBC. We are here and available when you have questions.
Well, thanks very much, Rob. And as always, to everyone out there listening, we'll do our best to answer your questions as they come in. We have our staff grouping the questions that come in, whether it's online or over the phone, and then we'll be forwarding those questions and hearing them on the call tonight, the ones that are the most asked in the community. Just a reminder before we get started, if you are looking for assistance or information from the Red Cross, you can always call 1-888-350-6070 or visit their Fort McMurray office in the basement of the Hardin Street building Monday to Friday 9 to 6 and on Saturdays from 9 to 5. If you are looking for recent progress update for re-entry to standing homes in restricted areas, visit rmwb.ca and click on the wildfire recovery banner on the top of the page to read about the update. Remember to press *3 to ask a question, and an operator will take your question. Or you can type your question into the question field online. So let's get started. We'll do the best to get you the answers that you need tonight. Let's take our first question, and we're going to go online, as once again we have many online questions coming in from the community. This one is from Nick. He's asking, who made the decision to change landfill fees for our Abasam, Beacon Hill, and Waterways homes, and why wasn't it a council decision? So we're going to send that one over to Erin O'Neill, our Chief of Planning, for an answer. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Nick, for your question. The landfill fees are actually regulated as an approved bylaw from Council under the utility rates bylaw. The $75 per ton for contaminated soils is for any residential soils related to the wildfire coming from any area of town, Abasan, Beacon Hill, Waterways, Timberley, Stone Creek. Any of those areas will be charged the $75 a ton for the soil that is coming from fire-related houses or fire-related properties. There is an $85 per ton charge for any debris that is related to that. So any of the ash or actually debris related to that is charged $85 a ton. What has changed in the process is regarding contaminated soils previously to the wildfire, the bylaw has been streamlined so that the contractor does not have to provide the backup information on what the contaminants are. As the municipality has already done the testing, we have streamlined the process so that there is no paperwork that has to be provided. It is simply the $75 per ton charge for contaminated soils from any residential fire burn properties.
Well, thanks so very much for that, Erin, and we're going to continue on with our online questions. This question is from Christy, and I think it'll be a good one for the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee, specifically Councillor Vinnie, if he's with us. What is the Recovery Committee doing to push back for a Bank of Canada mortgage deferral? So I'm going to send that one to Councillor Vinnie, please.
Thanks, Adam. So we are... most of the credit for the progress we're making, which is significant, it goes to our new chair, Ms. Benkars, but we have an appointment next Thursday with representatives of the mortgage insurance industry, and we have made contact with the Canadian Banking Association. So we are optimistic moving forward that we can discuss with these banking and mortgage insurance people and hopefully get some programs in place that will assist people who are underinsured or uninsured. So, yes, so appointment next Thursday, we're moving ahead with it. Thanks for the question.
Well, thanks very much, Councillor Vinnie, and thank you, Christy, for that great question. We're going to go to the phones for the first time tonight, and we're going to go to Daryl. Daryl, are you with us?
Yes, indeed. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Oh, well, I have a lot of questions, but I know I won't be allowed to ask them all, so I'll make it quick so everybody else can get on the line. What is the command structure currently being used to manage the situation? Note, in so many cases, we have council saying they have no knowledge of certain things like the dump fees. It's my suggestion and view that council needs to take strong authority here and act in an agile fashion rather than business as usual. So a remark on that will be, okay, stuff like the dump fees, stuff like Abrams Landing, we keep on hearing how, well, we'll think about it or we're considering it or yada, yada, yada. Guys, this is not business as usual. And it's not even on the agenda for Tuesday's meeting. And I sent an email to council, no response. You can't carry on like that. Andrew Brent.
Well, thank you so much, Daryl, for the question. And I know we had a number of questions in there, so I'm going to suggest that we first go to Dana Woodworth, our recovery team leader, and then perhaps a member of council, maybe Councillor Sheldon Germain could speak to council's role on the committee. So we're going to start with Dana, please.
So, Daryl, thank you for the question. It's Dana. The recovery committee, the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee, is actually created as a bylaw. So, bylaw number 16-013 on June 21st, 2016. So, it draws its authority and its power from your mayor and council. Underneath the committee, there is an operational task force, which I lead, consisting of roughly 40 people. And I would point that the construct of the task force is a transitionary piece between a typical REOC and a long-term multi-year recovery organization. And that is a typical process following a significant disaster wherein you have a response shift to a recovery operation, and obviously as the tasks change, the organization needs to change. I would say in a very direct manner, on a daily basis, I work in collaboration with the RMWB, my counterparts across in terms of senior administration. Obviously, I report up a slightly different chain to the chair of the committee, but the collaboration, from my experience in the past week on the ground, has been exceptional.
Well, thank you so much for that, Dana. I'll also send it, like we said, to Councillor Sheldon Germain to give a council perspective on Daryl's question.
Hi, Daryl. I did get your email and I did forward it. I'll get you some answers as per your email. I want to tell you this, though. There's nothing that council is doing to slow down any progress. And the task force model is being set up. We have a strong team of young leaders that are working hard, working long hours, to make sure that we get you looked after and other residents. Every single day we try to figure out how we can move this community forward and get people home. So I apologize if you believe that it's been slow, but it's been difficult and there's complex issues for us to understand and make sure that we got the good information, to get that information to the residents so that we can make solid decisions on your behalf and to serve you. So Daryl, we are trying. Apologize. I know as fast as we're going, it never seems quick enough. So thank you, sir.
Well, thank you once again, Daryl, for the questions and the questions earlier via email, and we thank Dana and Sheldon for the answers. We're going to go back to the phones. We're going to go to Andrew G. Andrew G., are you there with us?
Yes, I am.
How you doing?
Good.
Go right ahead with your question, sir.
Okay, I'm in a patio home in Abasand, and I was shared a common wall with my neighbor, and she's indicated that she's not rebuilding. And I've just called planning, and they informed me that my lot is not wide enough because it's only 7.6 meters, and you need 1.3 meters on either side. Now, I do have a home design that would fit that. How do I get a variance, or is there going to be variances allowed in that area? Because there's a couple of other people in the same position just in my block alone.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for the question. I'm first going to go to Jamie Doyle, our Director of Planning and Development. We'll follow it up with Rob Dupree from IBC.
Thank you, Adam, and thanks, Andrew, for the question. You are correct. There are some lots that are quite narrow. The requirement would be that any rebuild permit would need to meet the land use bylaw and the Alberta Building Code that is in place at the time of your application. As I understand it, there will be some hindrances to that. However, administration is looking at options for those narrower lots. Thank you.
And Rob Dupree from IBC. When we run into this situation, it becomes less of an insurance issue and more of a legal issue because you do share a common wall. With that being said, once you decide and talk to your neighbor and you can come up with an agreement as to what's going to happen, your insurance company will be there to help you fulfill the terms of your policy and will be available to assist in any way that they can.
Well, thank you so much, Rob and Jamie before you, and Andrew G. for the great question. We're going to go back to the phones here. Sharon, are you there? Sharon, are you with us?
I don't know if that's me.
Oh, hi there. Oh, sorry, is it Stephen, actually? Stephen, are you there?
Yeah, that's me. Hi there. How's it going?
Sorry about that. Go right ahead with your question, sir.
I'm one of the residents from Beacon Hill with a standing home. I hear you guys are going to be giving updates pretty soon about when we can re-enter and how the staging process is going to go. Just wondering if we have any updates on that yet.
Well, thank you so much for the question. I'm going to send that to Erin O'Neill, our Chief of Planning, please.
Thanks, Adam, and thank you, Stephen, for your question. We are working collaboratively with the Chief Medical Officer of Health, the Government of Alberta, and Alberta Health Services on that phased reentry plan for the areas of Abasand and Beacon Hill. As soon as we have information about that, we will be communicating it. Just so you do know, if there's any repairs that need to be done to your house, siding, roofing, those types of things that don't require building permits, you're free to go in through the 8 to 8 access periods times and do those repairs at this point. So free to go ahead and do that in your home in Beacon Hill.
Well, thank you so much, Erin, and thank you, Andrew G. as well. We're actually going to go to Councillor Sheldon Germain, who had something to add on that question as well.
That was Stephen, right? Yeah, Stephen, I just want to let you know that Erin has filed a huge report, 600-plus pages. There's nothing this municipality is doing to prevent you from getting back to your house. We are doing everything we possibly can to get you back safely, and we're just waiting for the Chief Medical Officer of Health to clear the plan and get you home. So thanks, Stephen, and we're pulling for you, and we're on your side, and we want you home.
Well, thank you so much, Stephen. Once again, sorry I had the technical difficulty there, and thank you, Councillor Germain and Aaron as well, for the answer to that question. We know it's on the mind of a lot of our residents. We're going to go back to the phone, and we're going to go to Sharon. Sharon, are you with us this time?
I am.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. My question is, I understand the reasons behind people not being able to park their travel trailers, what have you, on their properties once their properties are cleared to live in. But for those of us that stored our travel trailers in our driveways over the winter to save on those costs, are we going to be able to do that again this year and not have to worry about finding a place to store our travel trailers when our new rental situations don't have enough room to do so?
Well, thanks so much, Sharon, for the question. It's a great question. I think we're going to send it to Jamie Doyle, our Director of Planning and Development. Jamie.
Thanks, Adam, and thank you, Sharon. As long as your home is not in a restricted neighborhood of Waterways, Beacon Hill, or Abasand, or if the property has not been destroyed as a result of the wildfire, you can park an RV in the driveway. So that could be a friend or a neighbor, somebody like that. You can park them there.
Thank you so much, Jamie, for that. As we continue through our call, we're about 25 minutes through currently. Remember to ask a question. Press *3 on your phone's keypad and give your question to one of our great operators. If you're joining us online, please type your question into the question field at rmwb.ca/townhall. We're going to go back to our online questions now. This one is from Nicole. Nicole is asking, I heard there are in-person info sessions. When is the first one, and what can we expect? So I could actually take this from the communication side, but I'll send it to Jeanette Bankars, our chair of the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee, and then maybe we'll also go to Andrea Haley from Economic Development, talk about the YMM Home Show that's taking place on Saturday, where there'll be additional engagement opportunities.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adam. So definitely we believe that the community will be owning its recovery. So we hope to see as many people as we can come out on Thursday, August 18th between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. to McDonald Island Park, where we'll have some of our experts there to answer your questions and also give you an update on where we are to date on all of the questions that you have.
Well, thank you so much, Jeanette, and I'll also, like I said, send it to Andrea Haley to talk about the YMM Home Show taking place on Saturday.
Thank you, Adam. The purpose of the YMM Home Show is to offer local businesses the opportunity to showcase their services and products to residents as they look to rebuild and renovate post-wildfire. It will be at McDonald Island Park on Saturday, August 20th between 9 and 5 p.m., and we're very thrilled that there'll be free education sessions for business owners and residents on legal, know your rights, on things you should know when hiring a contractor, home decor, new provincial enhanced builder requirements. So lots of information at the home show, as well as getting to meet local businesses. Thank you.
Well, thanks so very much, Andrea, and thank you, Jeanette, as well. And we hope to see as many residents as possible, like the thousands that have joined us online in the telephone town halls over the last 7 weeks. So we are going to go back to the phones. We're going to go to Brian. Brian, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Go right ahead with your question, sir.
Okay, as a long-term resident and that, I'm always concerned about people and taxes. And my concern is when people built their homes, they paid GST on these homes. Now they have to rebuild because they've lost their homes. Is there any reconsideration to the federal government that no GST is charged on the rebuilding of these homes, which will save an enormous amount of money to the consumers and residents?
Thanks so much for the question, Brian. We're going to send that to Councillor Alvini with the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee, if you could just take a stab at that one for us.
Okay, thanks, Adam. I guess I'm always a little uncomfortable giving any kind of legal or tax advice without, having a chance to actually sit down and assess the situation. It really sounds like something you should ask your lawyer, or probably better your accountant. I will say this: it does seem like that if you're just rebuilding your home, there isn't. If I'm understanding that is correctly, you're rebuilding your home. I mean, you would, of course, you or your builder would pay GST on the supplies they use, but there wouldn't be a GST on it as a new built property. You're just rebuilding it, and presumably the new home credit would apply. Although given the price of properties in this area, generally there's nobody fits under the upper limit on that. So sorry, I can't be any more help than that, but it really is something for you to present to your accountant or your lawyer.
Well, thank you so much, Brian, for the question. Thank you, Councillor Vinnie, for walking us through. We'll also send it to Rob Dupree with IBC, who might be able to provide more depth for resident Brian on that one.
Hi, Brian, and thank you very much for the call. Under your insurance policy, you do have limits of insurance, but that also includes GST. So with many new home builds or with substantial renovations or remediation, the contractors will be charging GST, and those taxes are covered under your insurance policy, subject to the terms and conditions. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Rob, and thank you, Brian, for the question. We're going to go back to the phones here. We're going to go to Leonard. Leonard, are you there?
Yep, sure am.
Good to hear from you. Go right ahead with your question.
Yeah, we heard that if we get the first frost, that they will have to bury the holes back in, and it costs us $7,300. What's wrong with the fencing that they got around there now, which is more danger than anything else than an open hole? So what's wrong with leaving the fencing up?
Well, thanks so much, Leonard. That's a great question. I know that's one that a lot of our residents are asking, so we're going to send that to Jamie Doyle, our Director of Planning and Development, please.
Thanks, Adam, and great question, Leonard. And if I heard you correctly, you can go to our website at www.rmwb.ca /demolition. And if you look on the right-hand side, there's a really great bulletin in there done by our Chief Building Inspector to talk about the fencing as well as the backfill and some options of that, whether it's hay or leaving the fence up or using insulation rather than just fill the hole and then have to redig it again. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Jamie. That's provides some good background. We do advise our residents to go to rmwb.ca where they can assess many of the different options and cost benefit of taking a number of different approaches on that front. So thank you, Leonard. That's a great question, one that a lot of our residents have been asking. So we're going to continue on with our calls on the phone. Trevor, are you there?
Yes, I am.
How you doing?
Not too bad.
Go right ahead with your question, please.
Yeah, I'm one of the people that lost their homes in the fire as well. I'm on Walnut Crescent there, and I'm all cleaned out there on the land. Building permit is submitted for, and I just heard on the streets here that there's not going to be any permits issued until every place in Fort Mac is cleaned up. Is there any truth to that or no?
Well, thank you so much for the question, Trevor, and very sorry to hear about your loss during what's such a difficult time in the community as we recover. I'm going to send that to Jamie Doyle, our Director of Planning and Development, please.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you for your question, Trevor, and I'm sorry for your loss of your home. That's the misinformation. We are issuing rebuild permits. In fact, we already have. So if you want to leave your address, we can have a look into your application. But we are issuing rebuilding permits. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jamie, and thank you, Trevor, for the question. And once again, sorry to hear about your loss. We're going to go back online again. Like many of our weeks, we have many questions coming in on the online format. So we're going to kind of combine two questions here that are very similar. This one's from Melanie. she's asking, is 100% of the money raised by the Red Cross going to affected residents, whether that's to deal with accommodation costs or otherwise? So we are going to send that to Melanie Solaire from the Canadian Red Cross.
Hi, thanks, Adam, and thank you, Melanie, for your question. Yes, donations will be held in a separate trust fund to be used only for Alberta Fires relief and recovery efforts. There is a fundraising cost related to the emergency appeal, and that cost does not exceed 5%, and that 5% is only on the donated amount of $165 million and not applied to the matching amounts by the Government of Alberta or the Government of Canada. All remaining funds will be used for Red Cross operations to support the vulnerable people, families, and communities affected by this particular disaster. I encourage you to go to www.redcross.ca to see how your donation specifically is being used. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you so much, Melanie, for that comprehensive answer, and thank you for both residents that sent in a similar question, but one that's being asked by many people in the community. We're going to stay online for our next question. This one is from Nick, and he is asking, what is the contaminant left behind in burnt areas, and where is the paperwork to back up these findings? We'll send that one over to Erin O'Neill, our Chief of Planning, please.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Nick, for your question. We have done Phase 1 and Phase 2 testing with the Government of Alberta, and we do have the information that is on the Government of Alberta website, which you can access that website for that information. I will take your name and number, though, and have an individual from our environmental team call you back tomorrow to give you the specific details on those contaminants, though, so you do get the correct information.
Well, thank you so much, Erin, for that. And like Erin mentioned, you can go to alberta.ca to view all the testing results and all the details about both Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the testing. So please go to alberta.ca and you can see all the results thus far. We're going to go back to the phone lines, and I'm not sure if it's either Dennis or Denis. So are you out there, sir?
I sure am. My question is directed towards the Insurance Bureau. And I'd like to know if my insurance company is allowed to lower my coverage without my either verbal or written consent.
Well, thank you so much for that. We're going to go to Dave Johnson with the IBC, please.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you very much, Dennis, for your question. The insurance company has to go through a very specific process if they are going to lower your coverage without your request to do so, and that is by way of registered mail. They have to inform you of that and give you a minimum of 15 days notice for that particular change. Without knowing the details of what that may have precipitated that's the best answer I can provide at this point in time. But if you're interested in following up on that, I would encourage you to phone our toll-free number at 1-844-227-5422 to get one of our individuals to assist you further with that. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dave, and thank you once again for the question. Just a reminder to all our listeners out there, remember to ask a question. Press *3 on your phone's keypad and give your question to one of our awesome operators. If you're joining us online, please type your question into the question field at rmwb.ca/townhall. We're going to go back to the phones now for our next question. Danielle. Danielle, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Please go right ahead.
Oh, I was just wondering, I live on Blackburn Drive, and I was just wondering, because they tore down the greenbelt there, what they were doing with it.
Well, thank you so much for the question, Danielle. I'll actually go to Erin O'Neill, our Chief of Planning, for that, please.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Danielle, for your question. We have been working on some fire smart guidelines and how to rebuild the green belts in those areas where we did use the areas of fire breaks. I do have your name and number, so I am going to get one of our operations team to call you back tomorrow to give you the specific details on that fire break, but there is plans in place to make sure that those areas are not just left as clear cut.
Well, thank you so much, Erin, and thank you for the question. We're going to go back to our online portion, and This question is from Michael Gesso. He's asking, will the RMWB petition the courts to allow single-family homes to be rebuilt in place of the patio homes? So maybe I'll send that to Aaron O'Neill, our Chief of Planning, to take that. Sorry for the technical difficulty there. And we'll, allow Aaron to take that. And then if there's some other members of our panel who'd like to weigh in, but we'll let Aaron go right ahead.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you for the question. We have been looking at all the areas where there's patio homes, semi-detached, townhomes, for those individuals that would like to rebuild single-family homes. We are working with our planning and development team, our legal services team, our safety codes team to see what options there are available to people regarding the land use bylaw, if there's restrictions in place now or if there's options to rebuild. The rebuilding of, if, for example, a semi-detached home, if your neighbor chooses to rebuild and you would like not to rebuild, it is a legal issue, so you should consult a lawyer before you make that choice or take a payout with your insurance or those types of things. But we are working on developing the plan for building single-family homes or an alternate home typology on those lots, and we will communicate that as soon as we have an answer on that.
Well, thank you so much, Mike, for the question, and thank you, Aaron, for the response. Aaron, this one will probably also keep you on the line for this next one. This will be good for you as well. I'm going to combine two questions that are very similar. One is from Carrie and Heather, both coming in online. The question is, what areas are we waiting for feedback from the Chief Medical Officer of Health, so speaking about the restricted areas, and what happens if we are not compliant? And the other question that's related to it, if I live in Abasand, Beacon Hill, or Waterways, how do I find out my phase of reentry? So maybe, Aaron, you can give an overall update on where that is. So it's to Carrie and Heather out there, it's a bit of a combination of both your questions, but we want to make sure that we get as much information out to our community as possible.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Carrie, and thank you, Heather, for your question. We have been working collaboratively with the Chief Medical Officer of Health, the Government of Alberta, and Alberta Health Services on a re-entry plan to a certain phase of Beacon Hill and Abasand. These are the areas with less damage adjacent to them. We have not published a map or anything about the specific homes that will be in that Phase 1 reentry plan until we are sure that we know which areas can be mitigated so that we can lift those restrictions. So we have not published that information yet for fear of giving incorrect information, but we are working closely with the Chief Medical Officer of Health and her office on those restrictions. Upon a yes, if we get a yes from the Chief Medical Officer of Health, approximately 5 to 7 days later, we will work on a re-entry experience, which will be the exact same experience as our other residents experienced on June 1st. So there will be information centers set up in those areas, the Bagster program, the waiving of the landfill fees. All of those opportunities will be available for those residents on return. We are working closely on those mitigation to make sure that mitigation is in place and working with the Chief Medical Officer. So we will let you know as soon as we have that information.
Thank you, Aaron, very much for that excellent answer, and thank you to Carrie and Heather once again for the question. Aaron, you're going to go for 3 in a row here, I can promise you, because this next one is coming in from Kelly online. I know you and I were talking in the office right before we went on the air about this, so this will be perfect for our listeners. Question from Kelly is, why was September 30th made the end date for Abraham's Land RV campus? So perhaps you can provide an update on that.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Kelly, for that question. September 30th was originally chosen as we felt that was a date that individuals would have other interim housing options. We are looking at the options for Abrams Landing about possibly extending or what the interim options are available. There are some other options available to residents, such as Lewick Park Campground. They do have fully serviced sites just north of town, so you can move into that area, but we are working to determine what the demand and needs are of those residents living in Abrams Landing right now to see if we can look at extending that date in Abrams Landing. So we are working on it, and we will let you know as soon as we have that information.
Thank you so much, Erin, and thank you, Kelly, for that question. We are going to go back online for our next question. This question is from Dave. He is asking, what assistance is available for local businesses affected by the fire, and where can I get more information on the assistance that is ongoing? So I'm going to go to Andrea Haley from our Economic Development Department to take that one for us.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you so much for the question. For supports available for local businesses, I encourage you to go to our Back to Business Resource Center. There we have various programs available for your use, as Ask an Expert, networking events, as well as we have business expertise on site who are available through a Back to Business coaching program, as well as we have office space for your use, where you can have a printer, a fax, use of computers, and just even a boardroom for your personal use, as well as we have people on site letting you know about all the current available funding. Red Cross funding for small businesses, $1,000 per business, just ended on August 12th, but they have announced that additional funding will be coming in the month of September. So as soon as that's available, more information will be available from the Back to Business Resource Center on that, as well as our choosewoodbuffalo.ab.ca website. So those are all the supports available right now. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Andrea, and thank you, Dave, for the question. We're going to go back to the phones here. Annette, are you there?
Yes, I am.
How are you doing tonight?
Oh, fine, thank you.
Go right ahead with your question.
Okay, how is it that the city gives us authorization to repair our homes in the restricted areas, but our insurance company, and not just ours, I've heard others too, won't give us the okay till Alberta Health Services gives us the okay to re-enter those restricted areas?
Well, thank you so much.
Don't.
Sorry,
okay.
Go right ahead. Finish your question. My apologies.
Yeah, it makes it hard. You know, we'd have the time to do it, but we're scared that if we do go ahead, they might not, we might not be covered then by the insurance companies.
Thank you so much for your question. It's a great question, one that's certainly on the mind of a lot of people in the community. We're going to go to IBC. I think Rob Dupree, if you could take that one for us. Thanks.
Hi, Annette. Thank you very much for your call, and I'm very sorry that you've suffered damage to your residence. I'm assuming that you're talking about the restricted areas of Abasand and Beacon Hill. If you're living in those areas, your insurance company can absolutely go in and start doing the necessary repair work. Where it becomes a potential question is when the actual contractor needs to be applying for some type of a permit. You can get a debris removal permit and you can clear the debris, and the insurance companies can go in and do the necessary repair work on your house at any time, whether you're in the restricted zone or not in the restricted zone. For individual circumstances, depending on the extent of damage to your home, you would have to be talking with your adjuster. What I would do is encourage you to reach out to one of our consumer information officers with specific details about your insurance policy and your insurance company, and we can reach out to that insurance company on your behalf and have that conversation with them. So please call our Consumer Information Center tomorrow at 1-8442-ASK-IBC. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Annette, for the question, and thank you, Rob, for taking that one for us. We're going to go back to the phones, and this one is from David. David, are you there?
Yes, thank you.
Good to have you with us. Go right ahead with your question, sir.
They've both been slightly addressed tonight, but so I'll try to make it quick. The first one's about green space redevelopment. I just wanted to make sure that there was going to be an equivalent level of privacy put in place for people who've lost homes rather than just a reseeding, but it sounds like there is a plan in place for that. And my second one is my in-laws had lost their home in Beacon Hill. They had moved forward, got a permit to have their basement removed, and put a down payment on a modular home to put on that spot. by the sounds of it here, we're stuck in this limbo phase where we're waiting for the province to give us the go-ahead for a building permit. I guess I'm just wondering, is there any indication that they will not be able to get a basement in Beacon Hill in time so that they can start dealing with that home builder who they've already put money down on a home for? Because I get the sense that they're probably not getting a basement in this year.
Well, thank you so much, David. A couple questions there about green space redevelopment, some funding, as well as the permitting process, I guess specifically to Beacon Hill, but it would apply to some of our other restricted areas as well. I'll go to Aaron O'Neill, our Chief of Planning with Recovery, to take that one for us.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, David, for your question. Regarding the green space, our Parks team and the Fire Smart team have developed plans for green space redevelopment, and I do have your name and number, so I will get somebody from our operations group to phone you back to give you the specifics on that. Regarding the permits, currently, once your demolition is complete, you can apply for permits in Abasand, Beacon Hill, and Waterways. Those permits can be issued, but it is conditional upon the lifting of the restriction from the Chief Medical Officer of Health. So in essence, you can't put a shovel in the ground until those restrictions are lifted. So we are working closely and collaboratively with the Chief Medical Officer of Health on those restrictions, and we have put in place the demolition order so that properties are cleaned up by September 30th, or the municipality will go in and clean up those properties. That will help move along the process to ensure that residents can start that rebuild.
Well, thank you so much, Aaron, for the question. And just for our listeners out there, about 10 minutes left in our call tonight. Remember to ask a question. Press star 3 on your phone's keypad and give your question to one of our superb operators. If you are joining us online, please type your question into the question field at rmwb.ca/townhall. So we're going to go back to our online portion. This one was from Scott. He is asking, what is happening in Birchwood Trails and when will they reopen? So I'm going to go to Aaron O'Neill, our Chief of Planning, for a first step. And then I'm actually going to go to Sheldon Germain, Councillor with Buffalo Recovery, to speak to the importance of Fire Smart and some of the activities taking place in Birchwood. So if we go with Aaron first as to what's happening, when potentially they could reopen, then also to our council member to speak to the importance of it.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you for the question. We have assessed the trees in the area for any downed trees in that area, and we are working with a contractor to make sure that prior to opening our parks spaces and our trail spaces, that they are safe for re-entry for our residents. So that plan is currently in place and currently being worked on with our Parks Department to make sure that that area is safe. We will reopen those areas as soon as it is safe to do so.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Aaron. We're actually going to go to Jeanette Bankers, the chair of the Buffalo Recovery Committee, who would like to take that one. Go right ahead.
Hi, Scott. Thanks so much for your question. I just walked Birchwood Trails yesterday for at least an hour with my husband, and I did not realize they were closed. So I think what we're going to be doing is making sure we've got appropriate signage at all of those locations and ensure that safety first. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. I did see other people on the trails. We will for sure be readdressing those safety concerns today. Thank you so much. And you'll hear an update as well at the next town hall as to whether those are opening anytime soon. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Scott, for the question. We are going to go to Clayton now. Clayton, are you there with us?
Yes, I am.
Go right ahead with your question, sir.
Yes, my question is that when are you guys going to reach out to the people that lost homes? It's been 90 days, been living in a hotel. Not one person has contacted me to see how we're doing, how we're making out, or even we would like a town hall just for people that lost structures.
Well, thank you so much, Clayton, for the question. And again, sorry to hear about your loss and everything that you're going through. We're going to send that one to our chair of the Buffalo Recovery Committee, Jeanette Bankers, please, if she could answer that question.
Sure. Thank you so much for your question, Clayton. So sorry about your home. Absolutely, it is our priority to be meeting with our most affected residents. It has been, on the plan to have these meetings. We've started with some more general town halls, but you can expect in probably the next 2 weeks or so, we will be looking to have very targeted neighborhood-type meetings for those that are most affected. So stay tuned at the next town hall, and hopefully we'll have an update by then exactly what those timeframes will be for that. So thank you so much.
Well, and thank you so much, Clayton, and thank you, Jeanette, for that. We'll remind all of our listeners, as well as Clayton, although it's not specifically tailored to his situation or his neighborhood situation, we will be having in-person engagement session, an information session this Thursday from 4 to 8 p.m. on the concourse of the Suncor Community Leisure Centre at McDonald Island Park. Of course, we'll continue with our town halls, and as the weeks go on, we'll continue to provide more tailored engagement opportunities and information opportunities for all of our residents. So to echo the committee, but please join us on Thursday. We'd love to see you there. We are going to go back to the phones, and again, not sure if it's Guy or Guy. Are you with us?
I am.
Please go right ahead with your question.
Okay, my question is around the cost of the demolition and possibly having to, it sounds like we're going to have to recover the excavation. There was 2,571 demolition orders issued, and at a cost of about $14,000 a piece if you're going to clear the area and then recover it. Is there any thought to, or anybody looked at the Red Cross, the monies that were raised there, and with the Government of Canada contributing to say that they would pick up the cost of that? Rationale behind that is that for all the delays, it seems that most people are in agreement that insurance is not likely going to cover the cost of a rebuild with these additional costs. Has there any thought or any pressure been put on the government to look at this?
Well, thank you so much, sir, for the question. We're going to go, I guess, first to IBC. Is that correct? We're going to go to specs. Oh, to Melanie. Sorry. So I'm getting my cues mixed up here. So we'll go to Melanie Solaire from the Canadian Red Cross to take the first portion of the question, and we'll go to IBC.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your question. The Canadian Red Cross can't duplicate any insurance benefit that would apply. So if there are cleanup costs that can be covered by insurance providers, certainly they would need to come in first and provide that coverage. We are working closely with Erin and her team and RMWB to identify if there are any other cleanup costs, specifically around uninsured properties, to explore to see if there's a way that the Red Cross can come in and assist with that. Similarly, when there was the white appliance cleanup effort in the early days of reentry, part of that removal cost was covered by the insurance companies, and any uninsured properties were covered by the Canadian Red Cross. So we continue to explore ways, first of all, looking for the gaps, allowing insurance companies to do the work that they need to endeavor to do, and then working with RMWB to come in afterwards to look to satisfy some of those gaps around the cleanup and removal of that debris, specifically around uninsured properties. I hope that's helpful.
Well, thank you so much for the question, sir, and thank you, Melanie, for taking that one for us. I guess we'll also go to IBC, and Rob Dupree can speak to the insurance component of the question.
Hi, Guy or Guy. I'm sorry if we didn't get it right. Thank you for your call, and I'm very sorry for your loss. You talked about potentially having insufficient funds or underinsurance for the cleanup and the rebuild of your home. If that's the case, I'm very sorry about that situation. We have worked through and developed a coordinated debris removal program, keeping in mind that the benefits of the economy of scale of a coordinated debris removal program help keep costs as low as we can, so there would be more money available that is for your rebuild. If you do have specific questions about your individual policy, I encourage you to send an email off to one of our consumer information officers that can have a more tailored response once they know more details about your specific circumstance. That email address is fortmacfire, FORTMACFIRE, fortmacfire @ibc.ca.
Well, thank you so much, Rob, and thank you once again for the question. As we are nearing the end, we're going to wrap up the questions for tonight. Thank you once again to all of our online participants as well as our residents listening in on the phone. Before we close out the call, I'd like to ask Jeanette Bankars, our chair of the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee, to make some closing remarks. Jeanette?
Thanks, Adam, and thank you to the thousands of you that joined us this evening. As we continue to move forward, I hope some of you are able to attend our information sessions coming up later this week on Thursday from 4 to 8 p.m. at McDonald Island Park and on Saturday, August 20th at the YMM Home Show. Please visit rmwb.ca/engage for more information.
Well, thank you so much, Jeanette, and a reminder to our listeners and our residents that a full audio replay of tonight's town hall will be available soon at rmwb.ca/townhall. We do recognize that not everyone's question was answered tonight. We thank you for your understanding as we do our best to answer similar questions that may have been submitted throughout our call this evening. We invite you to visit rmwb.ca, call our pulse line anytime at 780-743-7000, or interact with us on Facebook or Twitter to connect with recovery efforts and the municipality. Our next telephone town hall will be on Monday, August 22nd at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Have a good evening as we stay safe, resilient, and together as a community. Thank you.